Let's talk about talent. We have this idea that greatness is just something you're born with. You've either got it or you don't. But what if I told you that's all wrong? What if greatness isn't a gift at all, but something that gets grown? Well, today we're cracking open the talent code to find out. And our journey starts with a pretty wild mystery. It centers on a 13-year-old girl named Clarissa and a short video of her practicing the clarinet. Because in that video, she somehow managed to do the impossible. So Clarissa is learning a new song, but she doesn't just play it from start to finish. Instead, she plays a little bit, hits a wrong note, and then she stops. Immediately, she hones in on that one tiny mistake, fixes it, and tries that little phrase again. To anyone listening, it would have sounded choppy and honestly kind of terrible. Now, get this. Right after this super focused session, she plays another song she knows. But this time, she just cruises through it, mistakes and all. The psychologist watching called it a moving sidewalk, basically a total waste of time. And the craziest part of all, Clarissa had no idea. To her, she was just practicing. So what in the world was going on in those 6 minutes? Well, Clarissa had accidentally tapped into a powerful, universal method for building skill like crazy. It's a method the book calls deep practice. And here's the secret sauce. Deep practice isn't about being perfect. It's the exact opposite. It's about finding that sweet spot, right on the edge of what you can do and struggling. It's about making mistakes, on purpose almost, so you can learn from them and get better. Okay, let me show you what this feels like. We're gonna do a quick experiment. On the screen are 2 lists of words. I want you to take just a few seconds and try to memorize the pairs on both lists. Ready? Go for it. So, which one stuck with you? I'm willing to bet you remembered way more words from that second incomplete list. In studies, people remember 3 times as many. And why is that? It's because for just a split second, your brain had to struggle to fill in that blank. That tiny little effort is what engraved it in your memory. That is deep practice in action. And this brings us to a huge paradox, doesn't it? We all want to look effortless and smooth. But it turns out, that's a terrible way to actually learn anything. The struggle, that feeling of reaching and almost failing, that's what's actually making you smarter. This idea of creating a space for productive struggle, it's not new. In fact, it solved a huge life-or-death crisis back in 1934. The U.S. Army was losing pilots at an insane rate, not in battle, but just trying to fly the mail in bad weather. They couldn't practice for those dangerous conditions because if you made one mistake in a real plane, you were done. Then this guy, Edwin Link, comes along with his homemade flight simulator, this blue box. It was basically a safe place to fail. Pilots could fly into a virtual storm, stall the engine, crash, and then just do it again. It was a deep practice chamber that let them pack years of terrifying experience into just a few hours. The same idea explains why Brazil produces so many legendary soccer players. You see, their secret weapon is a game called futsal. It's like soccer, but played in a super small space with a heavy little ball. And the numbers, well, they're just staggering. Think about it. Futsal is the flight simulator for soccer. The tiny space forces you to make decisions faster, to control the ball with way more precision. You're constantly on the edge of your ability, getting pushed into that deep practice zone without even thinking about it. Okay, so we've seen how deep practice works in the real world. But now for the really big question. Why does it work? What is physically happening inside our brains when we're doing this? Well, meet the hero of this entire story, a substance called myelin. The best way to think about it is like this. Your brain's circuits are like bare copper wires. Myelin is the rubber insulation that wraps around those wires. So every time you're in that deep practice zone, struggling, correcting an error, trying again, you're sending a very specific signal to your brain that says, hey, this circuit right here, it's important. Wrap it up. The more you practice correctly, the thicker the myelin gets. And a thicker wrapping means a faster, cleaner, more accurate signal. This isn't a metaphor. Skill is something you are physically building in your brain. This just changes that old saying completely, doesn't it? It's so much more powerful. It's not just some abstract idea of repetition. It's a biological process. You are literally growing your own talent. Now, this living insulation, it plays by a few key rules. 1, it only grows when you act. You have to actually fire the circuit. 2, it's universal. It builds skill for a piano player the same way it does for a snowboarder.
3, and this is a big one, it doesn't unwrap. That's why bad habits are so incredibly hard to break. And finally, our ability to build it is at its peak when we're young.
Okay, this science is absolutely fascinating, but let's make it practical. How do we actually use this knowledge? How do we start building our own myelin on purpose? Well, it all starts with learning to see the world like an expert. There was a famous chess study that found that grandmasters don't see 32 separate pieces, they see patterns, they see chunks. Where you and I see a confusing mess, they see a few meaningful groups of pieces. The secret to skill is learning to see in chunks. And there are 3 basic rules for learning how to do this with any skill. First, you have to absorb the whole thing. Get a picture of what perfect looks and feels like. Second, you break it down into the tiniest possible pieces. And third, you slow it way down. Practice so slowly you can feel every little movement and catch every single mistake. Now, this process, as you can imagine, takes time. A lot of time. This is where that famous 10,000-hour rule comes from. It's not some magic number, really. It's just a measure of the incredible amount of deep practice it takes to build up enough myelinated superhighways in your brain to become truly world-class. So when you put this all together, it really changes how you look at people, at talent, at everything. That whole idea of someone just being a natural starts to fall apart. Greatness isn't some genetic lottery ticket that only a few people win. It's the result of a biological process that is available to every single one of us. We are built to grow skill in response to focused, targeted effort. It means we have way more control over our own abilities than we've ever been taught to believe.
So, in the end, the question isn't, are you talented? The real question is, what are you going to build? Knowing that every time you struggle and correct a mistake, you're laying down another wrap of myelin,